Welcome to Birch Tree Studios, the home of 1013 Publications. This is 40 Below Zero, an international show about chronic illness hosted by two guys with MS. I'm your co-host Nick, and with me as always is Terry. We're so glad all of our warriors and supporters are here with us, so let's get into it. Hey Terry, another week's gone by. How you feeling, my friend?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm just going with the flow.
Okay, so
Yeah.
tell us about this week's show.
Old buddy of mine. We used to volunteer somewhere together. I feel like we have a bond. Um, he has a hidden issue, like he goes through, but it's not even about that. I found out that he has hidden issues, but his anxiety is a lot worse. And that's what I used to say. I used to say, everyone thinks my MS is, my legs are hurting, my legs are garbage. But I got anxiety, man, that has played way past this MS thing.
To bring everybody up to speed, Terry and I, we met with Lorne, which is this week's guest, a couple days ago, and we recorded the episode. So what you are going to hear is, I think it picks up in the middle of a conversation, like right in the middle of the conversation. So we use the pretty raw audio for this one.
As we should for every single one.
This one is a long one. I think it's over 2 hours this week.
It's good. It's natural. I like it.
I think you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out with us. Hope you stick around for the whole thing. Let us know what you thought. Reach out to us, and we'll talk to you next week with our next guest.
Cool, man. We'll talk to you soon. Good conversation going
on. Yes. To answer your question that you just asked before we started, I did adapt a kind of Buddhist Zen way of looking at the world after my diagnosis, after acceptance of my diagnosis. Once I got past the anger and all those other phases, and I was like, okay, this is where it is, and it's not changing. And no matter what I do currently, there's still nothing to undo it. I might as well just accept the fact that cosmically, we're all just riding the wave. So yeah.
Did you do that all yourself, or did you speak to someone to come to that conclusion?
Honestly, it was so very early on in the first years of my diagnosis. I spent a lot of time in hospitals. I was hospitalized every 2 to 4 months for a 7-day flare-up. And you do a lot of MRIs, a lot of blood work, a lot of testing to see where you're at with things. So I really used my time alone to focus on processing how I wanted to go forward. Like I could go forward angry and try, and try to be the guy who could change everything and be like, I could just muscle through this. I'll figure this out. It's no big deal. Or I said, this happened. This is where you are. How can you adapt? And how should you look at life? Because I can't look at life the same way. Because that's the old life. And you got to really get out of that headspace. Or you'll be very angry.
Nah. I feel like now I have a reason to be mad.
And it certainly gives you fodder. Were you always so introspective?
I tried to be. You get to that point in your life where you start questioning the things that you were told. Sure. And you try to be like, is this real? Is this true? Do I even like what I've been told, how I was brought up? Not saying anything against family. I'm just talking how the world was presented to you as a child. At about somewhere around 14 to 16, I started really looking at a lot of things and being like, okay, just because I was told these things are true and this is how it's supposed to be, is that really true? I don't know. So I got to investigate it. So I did. I was brought up Catholic upbringing. Your teachers, your religious for the church, all those kind of things. I started questioning all that, and I never stopped questioning. I still question it now. Because the older I get, the more I realize I don't know anything.
Is it Socrates or something like that? The only thing I know for certain is I know absolutely nothing.
Something like that, yeah.
So it's interesting because I think, I mean, this is completely armchair psychology, but I always thought that the people that don't go the route you went, where they start questioning like everything and authority, and the ones that just, I guess, toe the line the whole way until they reach 40 or 50, I think sometimes that's what brings up a midlife crisis, is they've been doing it without questioning any authority for so long, and then they finally question so late in life. They're like, have I been leading someone else's vision of my life?
On
And
that
it
note,
Yeah.
Lord Broadstein, what's going on, man? I feel like it's been so long since even though I've been on your show, I just feel like it's been so long since you and I connected. We have history together, which, you know, I know what you're going through, man. I just don't want to put it out here. I know you might have IBS. Please tell me I'm right, man.
No, you're right.
Okay. Um, I was with someone. I don't know if you ever met her in the past, no longer together, but she had IBS and a severe case of it. So I lived with that for about 6 years. I
Yeah.
lived with her with that. And I always, like, now I have underlying issues because of my MS. And I go through some of your issues, but not what you go through. I don't have any of the pain that you probably go through. But dude, I've seen her social life just stop because of the IBS. So I could imagine you go through a lot of stuff. Tell me just briefly about your story. I don't want to nuisance you talking so much about what you're going through.
Um, sure. I mean, it's not as, I think some people, like you guys definitely and I won't say that it's not that it's practiced. It's just the way that it seems like both of your stories played out in your lives. It almost played out in a cinematic way, the way you explained how you grew up and then you suddenly uh found, or not found, but you were suddenly diagnosed with this condition and it slowly changed your trajectory of your life. The way you guys tell it sounds so cinematic. Maybe it's just the way you guys speak, but mine isn't as glamorous in the sense that it's just, I've always sort of had it. I had it before I even knew it was a condition. I always just thought that was just sort of life. Um, and I guess when it happens like that, you just sort of by the time I had autonomy, I guess I was always just adapted to living with like IBS, not recognizing that it was actually a condition. That was just my life. That was just how it's always been. And versus, I think when you get diagnosed later in life, there's an adaptation phase, and there's an acceptance phase, and an anger phase, and so I guess that's it. Like later in life, I think as things became more difficult, like school and uh, hanging out, going places, I guess with the autonomy of becoming older, when I wasn't with my parents all the time or just near a bathroom all the time, I recognized that this was becoming more increasingly difficult to do what normal kids do. And I guess that's when I started seeking out answers, realizing that not everybody's like this. At first, I think doctors, parents, everybody thought it was anxiety for a long time. It's just stress. That's why he's got a bad stomach. And I don't think IBS was that uh, known about when I was really young. I think it's, maybe I'm wrong, but no one told me about it until I was like 13 or 14.
I don't remember hearing anything about it. At least not mainstream. At least longer than 10 years ago. I didn't even know what it was.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So they always just said it was stress. And like, that's what I thought it was. And I still sort of, I mean, it seems to be exasperated, certainly. I mean, it still seems a little bit unknown in the sense that, like, I personally don't know of the underlying cause. I don't know if it's genetics or what it is, but it had, good days and bad days.
Is it wrong for me to say that no one would know, man? You look normal, but what is normal, right? But you look normal when I see you, and I'm thinking, what did Lauren go through? Because it's all behind closed doors.
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, speaking to you two right now, it's the same thing. You guys don't. You guys, it's almost like invisible unless you know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was kind of one of the driving factors of us starting the show. Was because there's so many invisible unknown people walking around just being like you said, this is my life. I guess this is not wrong. This is just how everybody lives. Everybody has to deal
Right.
with these issues. And the fact is it's far less people have to deal with them than we even think about. When you look
True.
at the overall numbers, it's not a whole lot of people when you put the whole country, in perspective.
My normal is my normal now, and I forget that it's not your normal. So
Correct.
I say stuff, and then I see people's reactions, and then I have to take a step back and say, oh, that's probably so off for them to hear, because it's so normal for me to talk about, hey, I sorry, Lorne, hey, I pissed myself today. And then I see the next guy like, oh my God, did he just say that? And it's like, yo, man, this is what I deal with. Not that I piss myself all the time. I didn't mean to say that, but just the whole lingo.
I get it. I'm so, I mean, I guess we haven't caught up enough, but I'm like so desensitized from that stuff. I've been around so much of that stuff, whether it's caring for like family members or just the stuff that I've had to deal with. I'm so past that, like shame and like it's just, I think it gets to a point where you're just tired. Like you can't even, it's just another weight that I just can't bear compared to everything else I got going on.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me. I don't know.
And I hear people from time to time and they say like, oh, I don't know how you do it. I don't, you're so, you have such a good strength to get up and deal with this every day. And it's like, yeah, but you wake up and your day starts. I don't know.
There's no alternative. No,
Yeah.
there's nothing else.
Yeah. The things that we care about. And the things that we can do, we do. It's just, but I think we're seeing their fear response when they say things like that. When they say, oh, I don't know how I could do it, or I could never do it.
True. You're right.
That's
You're absolutely right.
That's their fear response.
That's very insightful.
And honestly, it's scary, but I don't know. I guess we've been doing it long enough. Like you said, we're desensitized.
I just think humans were, at least from my experience, we're really good at, or we're very fearful of the unknown. We're fearful of pain. We're fearful of difficulty. But once we're thrown in it and not given a choice, we generally adapt pretty well.
Hmm.
Even in pretty dire circumstances, we still somehow find a way to just exist day to day.
Yep. And
And
when you
go
look
ahead.
back on it, you go, oh man, those were the days. But you forget those days were just as hard as the day you're in now.
True.
Just to, like, oh, life was so much simpler back then. It wasn't. You just think it was because of all the stuff you're dealing with now.
True. New problems.
That's right.
But I just think that like, I guess you just, in the end of the day, something that I need to do more often. I think a lot of people should, is just give yourself more credit for your ability to tolerate otherwise unfortunate circumstances, regardless of what it is, whether it's illness or anything else. We generally are more capable than we give ourselves credit for, and often you don't see it until looking back.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. Like I just think, because you were saying people's fear response, I think most people that would be in a position to be diagnosed with what you guys are dealing with would feel, before they're diagnosed, they'd feel like they're incapable. They wouldn't know what to do. They wouldn't be able to exist as well as you guys exist day to day. But I think that most people don't realize that, given being forced into the circumstances like you guys were, you learn, as most humans do, to adapt and to find peace amongst the difficulty that you've been served. And the reason why I say that, and I'll stop, is just because I've read books like Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
He was a psychologist, I believe. He was in the Holocaust, and he learned as he was a psychologist before, I believe, but during the Holocaust, while he was in it in Auschwitz, he recognized that humans are more capable than they give themselves credit for. The sheer will of keeping hope and optimism despite very dire circumstances is actually enough to push you past the bounds of what you think you're capable of. In the case of like these people that kept hope and thought at some point they would make it out, they actually did survive. They were able to withstand hunger a little bit longer. They were able to withstand pain, broken bones, while those that gave up hope generally succumbed to sickness. That's what he was able to find through the study while being in Auschwitz at the time.
What's his name again?
Viktor Frankl.
Victor.
Viktor.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's Man's Search for Meaning. It's an awesome book, and it's just about being thrown into very difficult circumstances unfairly and still finding a way to find hope in spite of the tragedy that life sometimes throws at you.
Well
Nope.
said, man.
We're getting deep on a Friday morning.
Well said,
Okay.
man.
Sorry.
This
Woo,
is
no,
Lord, man.
it's all good. I'm here for it. I like it.
I
I like
feel
it.
like I feel like we are very much the same person, Lauren and I, except I'm years ahead of him in age. But I don't know. I feel like I connect to this guy, even though he's much more intellectual than I am.
I wouldn't
Jesus.
say that, but we all have our interests. That's what it is. I mean, you could school me on a lot of things, I'm sure. I'm certain. I'm confident. You still have that, huh?
Yeah.
Nice, dude.
What's the story with that?
Oh, just somewhere we volunteered together back in the
Oh,
day.
okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah. But
So go ahead, please.
no, when you have issues in your day to day, do you say, sorry, I have IBS? Do you explain to people? If you have to go to the washroom, do you try to give it an out? Like, sorry, I have IBS. This is the problem with me. Because you're labeling yourself when you say that too.
Yeah, I don't usually. I mean, God, to be honest with you, I don't even make plans that often at this point. I've just isolated so much at this point. It's just become my life. But I think those in my life at this point, it's a very small circle, are tolerant to. They know the situation at this point, I think. But that is a really small circle to get to that point, I think.
The
Yeah,
same way, man.
it's
So
not
when
it's
the
not ideal.
so when the pandemic hit and everyone was forced to stay at home, where you're like, finally.
Business as usual. Yeah, nothing really changed.
Yeah.
Did it affect you guys greatly?
It affected my wife's business a lot because she was a baker.
Oh boy.
She owned a bakery, so it kind of we opened the storefront. I say we, but she opened the storefront during in 2020 during the height of it, and for a while we were doing good, but then after all that, it drug on and on and on. The margins started getting thin, and then the prices of everything went up, and we just couldn't keep up. So we ended up shutting it down.
Sorry to hear that. That's an awesome. A bakery sounds amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's hard to keep afloat when you have to double and 2.5 times the price of everything, just because everything you're getting, all your raw materials are that's astronomical.
Right, I can imagine.
Yeah. So just one of many. I live in an area that has a lot of mom and pop style bakeries and delis and pizza shops and all that stuff. And a lot of big names in our area got impacted and had to shut down completely because of it. So like 50 and 60 plus years in business are just tanked. So
Wow.
yeah.
You're in Philadelphia?
About just around Philly, between Philadelphia and the state line of Delaware. So
Nice.
lower
He's
southeast.
not in Pittsburgh.
Not in Pittsburgh. There.
Are you familiar with Rita's water ice?
Oh yeah,
Yeah?
absolutely. Oh yeah.
Oh, I love that stuff.
I have 3 quarts of it sitting in my freezer right now.
Oh man. Oh, my dad's family is from Philadelphia, and we would get it all the time. And we'd go to Ocean City, and I loved Philly. Like, they had the best pizza, great Chinese food. It's You guys definitely have better food than we do in Canada.
Thank you. Yeah, we're like I have anything to do with it. Thanks. No. I'm just a consumer.
What are you talking about? What's in your fridge right now?
3 quarts of Rita's water ice.
Okay.
He says water. I love the accent. Water.
What is it? Swedish fish, blue raspberry, and lemon. Red, white, and blue.
Nice. Very, very nice. Yeah, I don't know how else to describe this. Is it like shaved ice cream, or is that what you call shaved ice? Like Italian ice?
Yeah, it's
Sorta.
yeah, it depends on what kind you get. So
Terry, it's really good.
a lot of
Yeah.
sugar.
Oh yeah, it's frozen sugar water.
Okay, all right,
It
John.
tastes so good on a summer day, man.
Oh yeah. And and you can even use it as a mixer for alcoholic beverages if you so choose.
Do you guys drink alcohol?
I stopped 4 years ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I don't.
Not
My body can't take it.
Yeah,
I've
neither do I.
never, and I'm glad because I think I would have been an alcoholic if I enjoyed that shit.
Yeah, you have an
Yeah.
addictive personality.
I hate when people say that because how do you know unless you're addicted to something? But
well, I think in my short experience with Terry, he has a hyper focused personality. So like when he gets something he likes, case in point, look at his studio.
Mm-hmm.
That studio didn't exist until I said, "Hey Terry, you want to do a podcast?" And
Mm.
he was like, "I need 5 microphones and sound deadening," and he just went.
Yeah, he goes hard.
So
pretty much, yes. So
I think people know they have an addictive personality. It starts with little things. Like I think you realize if you go to the same store every day or you do the same thing every day and then you can't do it and it really causes a lot of grief. Then you realize maybe I do have an addictive personality. I think you first notice it with like if you have like the same coffee every day or something.
yep,
I have an
caffeine's the
addictive
gateway drug.
personality.
Yeah. Do you?
I think
Like
so.
routine.
You just
Although
like,
I'm
is this therapy session right now? What's going
Yeah,
on?
that's what we're doing.
Yes, I have an addictive personality. I'm glad I don't drink alcohol. Yo, growing up, I tried to. There was people drinking. I'm like, oh,
Sure.
I'll
Yeah.
try, and I couldn't sit in my system. Bathroom issues afterwards.
Oh
I
yeah,
get
Right.
nauseous. So yeah, it just never sit well with me. So I just didn't drink. And then people started to say, "Oh, you don't drink because you're Muslim?" Like I'm not Muslim.
I had a neurologist tell me very early on. He said He said you should have two 2-ounce glasses of whiskey every day to reduce inflammation.
Wow.
I said, that's your actual advice? And he said, yeah. He
Uh,
said, if you enjoy whiskey, so I was like, nah, I got to get off
what
that because
saloon did you see this doctor in?
yeah, right.
Oh my
And
God.
he was probably against marijuana.
He was actually,
Yeah,
What a
it's
uh,
shocking.
yeah, he was not a fan of medical cannabis.
Is that legal in Pennsylvania?
If you have a medical card, yes, which I
Nice.
do. So, and they just put legislation forth to allow an update to the law where card holders see the state is getting real close to legalizing it completely recreationally. So in probably about 5 to 6 years, it'll be completely legit. But they added a caveat to the law that people with medical cards will be able to grow up to 6 plants.
Nice. Very nice.
So
Yeah.
I was very happy to hear that.
And when's that coming into?
It's on the floor now
I
to be
see.
voted on. So probably by the end of this year, maybe early next year.
Nice. Yeah,
So
cultivation is huge.
yeah,
For sure.
the prices are ridiculous.
It's insane. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh my god, what is it up there for you guys?
Uh Legally you're paying probably at least $10 a gram.
It's always
Wow.
been like this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we're about there. We're 15 a gram. So
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
crazy. There's
Yeah.
no way you're gonna keep people off the street if you're charging that. I mean, they're
no,
already buying it on the street.
no, there's a great documentary. There's Green Mountain, Death Mountain, or something. I can't remember. It's on Netflix. It's a whole documentary on how the white market in California pushes the black market harder than it ever has been. So it's the more available legally it is,
Hmm.
the cheaper the black market gets and more available the black market is.
Well, I would imagine because with legalization there becomes less emphasis on monitoring and cracking down.
Taxation.
Right. True, true. I mean, not to mention like it's the whole thing of the regulation required, I guess, for safe cannabis is why the price is so high, but it's a catch-22 because you're not gonna be able to beat the black market if I guess what I'm trying to say is they screwed up keeping it illegal for so long that people are so comfortable with the black market that unless the price is cheaper, regardless of they're going to have to lose money because I understand they have to irrigate it and test for fungus and mold and everything else. And that's why the cost is so high. It has to go through so many filters before it can get to the consumer if you do it the legal way. But we've been buying it illegally for so long that like we don't care at this point. We're just still going to keep buying it from the guy we trust. And if you're going to charge us more, most people aren't going to pay more for the same thing. And often it's inferior, honestly, personally.
You are exactly right. I cannot. You eloquently stated, sir.
It's just because if it was new and we didn't know a guy, but like most people have been seeing the same guy for like 20 plus years,
Yep.
or they know someone, or if someone's just growing in their backyard, it's,
Yep.
I don't know.
I think we've all come to the realization that no matter who you get it from, it is not in that person's best interest to have you die.
Right? It's crazy. Like it's not like anything else. It's like I understand with a lot of the other stuff, it's sketchy. It's real sketchy.
Yeah.
But cannabis is different. I don't know.
Yep. Well,
Murder
here in
Mountain?
Pennsylvania, what's that?
Is that the name of the show, Murder
Murder
Mountain, that
Mountain.
you're talking
I think
about?
that's what it's called.
I've
Yeah,
heard
did you
of
look
it.
it up? Yeah, a good documentary. It's really good.
I'm sorry. I feel like I'm hijacking this. Is there a structure?
No, you're
that we should
fine,
be
bro. No,
following?
no, there's no
Okay.
structure. Yo, you're fine. You don't ramble at all. I got a coaster here. I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, but my girlfriend gave me this coaster, and on it says, "Sorry, I slapped you, but it didn't seem like you'd ever stop talking, and I panicked."
I don't shut
So,
up, man.
Lord, that's me, man. Don't worry. I'm letting you, letting you
I-
guys take it.
I should give you a flag you can lift just when you want me to stop talking.
You're fine, I swear.
He's the host. He can mute everybody.
True. That's the hand of
He
God.
has the power. But no, there's no structure.
I'm just a
I tell it.
co-host.
We have a lot of guests that come on and say very similar. They're like, "Oh, was I supposed to be talking about some?" Nope.
Okay. It seems like you guys want to change the format a little bit from the last one. Is that what's happening now?
We tried new stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want to exclude people.
Hmm.
Want to let everybody know that MSers do not. It's not a closed community. We take anybody with any kind of chronic thing because misery loves company, I guess. I don't know.
Fair. The reason why I asked, so I should have prefaced this with another question. There's two types of podcasts. There's ones that keep everything cloak and mirror or cloak and shadows or whatever, and then the other one is more meta where they'll talk about the pod on the pod. And I should have asked that first because we're talking about the pod on the pod now, which I personally prefer because that's what I find podcasts so fascinating is that there's this like meta to it where like you talk about it as you're on it versus like television is like super don't talk about the man behind the curtain.
Right.
I love your show because it's so raw. Your show is so raw. You're like,
that's intentional. I don't edit anything. I edit very little.
It's fine.
Yeah.
We break the fourth wall often. It's fine.
Yeah, I think there's something charming about that.
As a matter of fact, on some of our shows, Terry and I are talking about the upcoming shows and like.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Yeah. I'm sure you guys have talked about this before. You definitely have, but please remind me, how originally did you guys connect?
Instagram.
It was through Instagram. That's fascinating.
I searched.
Oh my God.
I'll say it again, Terry. I'll tell the story
No,
again.
it's not me. Go ahead.
I searched. I had just received see, you have to get a prescription for a wheelchair. I don't know if it was the same for you, Terry, but in order for my insurance,
if you want to get covered, yes.
So my doctor wrote a prescription for a wheelchair. And when I finally found a chair and a company and all that stuff, I was like, not depressed, but I was kind of like, oh man, I really need to figure this out. How do I even live with a wheelchair? I saw my grandfather use one and I'm like, I don't even know what to do. So I searched wheelchair influencer on Instagram and Terry was the first one that popped up because of his cat videos.
That's funny.
Cat videos.
Then he put up on his story about the groups that we now attend, the warrior group sessions. And I said, I'll check it out. So I said, hey, Terry, I introduced myself and he's like, yeah, come on, here's the link. And I went and we just connected.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yep.
That's an awesome story. So I imagine, would hope that today with the technology we have and everything, wheelchairs are a little bit more advanced than they were back then. A little bit more allow for a little bit better accessibility to the general world. I would hope, or is it the same design that it's been forever?
You know what's funny is to me it's the same design, but every time the new model comes out, it's it's even lighter. It's like how much lighter can it get? Like what material are you using? But there's always new design, to keep up with the market. Like the
I would imagine
Now there's chairs with suspensions. I don't even know if Nick knows that. Yeah, there's shock systems and wheelchairs.
Listen, I'm saving my pennies for a tank chair, sir. It
Well,
is it's tank treads and it goes 35 miles an hour. It's
whoa.
fine.
So that was my question, because in Canada, like our sidewalks get horrible. And I think about this every year. Like I know people with mobility issues. How do you exist in the winter?
Dude, I gotta talk to you for a second, first of all, about the chair. Do you remember seeing the chair before I was a chair user? Do you ever
I mean,
remember seeing the chair sitting in my office?
you had
Anyway,
it. You didn't really use it very often.
I never used it. I never used it, but I always had it, and I always tried to bring it in the presence of everyone so they can get, you know, they wouldn't freak out. Oh my God, what's the chair doing? It would be normalized to everybody. So when I did sit down in it, they wouldn't freak out. But it didn't matter. No matter what, you sit down in a chair, people look at you and they're like, hey, what's going on? You know, there was always that awkward feeling. So I never normalized it. And that's the reason why I left Toronto. Because I'm like, all right, my legs are getting weaker. I started a new life here where I can just start fresh. So Nick only knows me in a chair because I started my Instagram account in a chair. Because I'm like, guys, this is who I am now. I got to break out, out of the closet. So
I don't want to. I can't think of a better word other than belittle. I don't want to belittle what you're saying, but I have it's a genuine question.
Go.
Did you actually have an experience or a conversation with someone? They're like, oh, this is different now because you're in a chair, or is it very internalized? Because it sounds crazy to me personally to think that like if you see someone and they're in a wheelchair all of a sudden to like nothing changes in my brain really. I don't know, but maybe I'm just weird.
I've in the past I've had friends when we see someone in a wheelchair, I've had friends make fun of that guy in a wheelchair.
Really?
And that's what sticks in my head.
Yeah, that's fair. That's crazy.
As soon as I'm in a wheelchair, I'm imagining the people that was made fun of.
Yeah.
And that's why I lost a lot of weight. And there's a whole story to it, man.
I'm sorry to hear that.
No, man, everyone goes through their own issues. And yeah, I did run away from my past and I did come here and I started opening up again. And I realized my life's not over. Being in a chair is pretty cool, man. And that's why I kind of souped up my chair because you're going to be center of attention. Might as well play it.
Gotta look good.
Do you find you encounter a lot of people like that?
Dude, the first time I went publicly I took a scooter, which is the most embarrassing thing for me. I don't know why. It's an ego thing. I just want to be in a chair manual to show people I'm still independent. Yeah. But, to go get a coffee, you can't go in a wheelchair because I'm not going to stick it on my chair. And, the sidewalk, there's all these bumps and every time you hit a crack. So I would take my scooter. The first time I went out to Tim Hortons, I was in line. It was my turn. The lady looked behind me to the lady behind me and said, next. So she totally disregarded me. And my ego, my everything, I just shut down. I said, oh, I was like a 10-year-old kid, man. I'm like, what about me? And she's like, oh, yeah. How can I help you? Dude, I went home that day and I was like, never again am I leaving. I was so bad. Like the reaction I got my first day going out in a scooter, I was like, oh, I guess, people in wheelchairs are known as mentally unstable.
And that's a thing does that happen often?
No.
So that was at least an isolated incident, at least.
Definitely, yeah.
That's crazy to me. Could not imagine. Have you ever heard the show What Would You Do?
Of course. Yes.
It just seems like once in a while I'll see things like that, and I just go ahead, please.
No, see, this is what I do. You do too, so it's okay. But this is when I go to places, I notice stuff like that happen a lot, but nothing so insulting. But it's where they would look at my partner and talk to her. But I'm like, this is my appointments. I go to the dentist and
I wish someone would do that. I don't want to talk to anyone.
And then I would just look at her and smile. And she'd look at me and smile. I'm like, that's a story for later. I won't do anything in the moment. I won't say, hey, yo, lady, I'm talking.
No, I get it. That's insane, though. I think, I don't know what that is. Do you find that more? Is it is it a generational thing? Or is it just every age doing it?
Oh man,
Well,
good question.
well, I can tell you that recently I went on a trip down to Washington D.C. and I was in one of the libraries, and a young woman, probably, so I'm 43, she's probably half my age, probably in her 20s, reached over me when I was in my wheelchair to get a book off the shelf and was like, "Oh, excuse me," like
That's
literally over
insane.
my shoulder.
That's okay. That's crazy though, right? That's
So
those are so
Dude,
we
I
see
got
that though. These are
many
crazy people,
stories
right?
of that. Many stories.
yeah,
Many
yeah.
stories.
Terry's talking about the grocery store, people reaching over.
I've
Yeah,
had one, and I never say anything, Lauren, because I don't want to be that crazy guy who freaks out. And it's like, calm down, sir, just calm down. But sometimes you have reason. One guy reached over me once, and I actually pulled back and said, "Excuse me, what's the deal?" And I actually spoke up, and he looked at me, he goes, "Ah," and he just started laughing at me, like I was freaking out for no reason. And it got me really more mad. And I'm looking around, like hoping that there's somebody to be like, "Hey, sir, give him some space, speak up for me," because I don't want to be that crazy guy. I went to get blood work once. This is funny. And after the blood work, I'm sitting there, and my girlfriend's in the other room because she's like, "Oh, I'll wait for you till you're done." I'm like, "Thank you." She knew that I got blood work done, and she's such a caring person. She's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go there and help him because I know his hand's gonna be up in the air or whatever." So she'll just push me to the exit, whatever. She came and she's like, "Hey, how are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm great. The blood work's done." And then the lady comes back with the bottle for the urine sample, and she looks at me, she looks at her, gives her the bottle, and says, "Okay, so just make sure when you fill up this bottle, make sure you catch it midstream, wipe first." And she's explaining to her how to catch my pee in
Okay.
this, dude. And I'm like, "Is this really happening?" And she's looking at me, Katrina, my girl's looking at me like, "Are you gonna get offended?" That it was just such a funny moment. And I just let her. And then afterwards, I'm like, "You gonna make sure you catch it midstream?" I would always joke about that. But
That's a
that
good
happens all the
it's
time.
good to laugh at it. I think you're opening up my eyes to this, but I mean, it seems like one of those circumstances where the only way you can cope with this is to just take on a Buddhist approach. It
yeah.
seems because like that's crazy, that's insane. But clearly, I mean, there's ignorant people, and there's
Well,
nothing you can do.
our our everyday, everything that we think is super important to us is, but we don't know anybody else is super important.
Correct.
And you'd be surprised. There's there's people in my life who I've known for the majority of my life who are now just saying, "Nick, I had no idea what MS was. Like I heard it, I knew it, like I see the commercials, whatever, but I didn't know it was like that." And that's true for, and the reason why we started in season 2 branching out is because we don't know, like I know what IBS is, but I don't know what it is. I don't know how it is. Same thing with all these other illnesses that are invisible. So
True.
For Terry and I, this is an exploration into whoever, how is everyone else dealing with life.
That's fair. I like that mentality, and also like Terry, I should just say, there's a saying like you should never attribute malice what can be attributed to ignorance, and often that's the case. I think when these people say or do these stupid things, uh, it's often just ignorance. It's not intended to be malicious. They're not thinking, and that doesn't make it any less hurtful.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. I
So
hate when
that's so
people say their intentions was pure. Their
yeah.
intentions was good. I hate when people say that.
It still sucks. It's just what I've realized is, and I try to tell myself this all the time, is that people most of the time aren't inherently evil. They're just focused on, they're so overwhelmed with whatever they got going on that they're just on autopilot. And
Sure.
it doesn't make the situation better when you're in it. It just I just try to remind myself the world's not out to get you most of the time. Everybody's just overwhelmed.
If you speak up,
Yeah,
then you solve the issue. But no one speaks up because of
true.
whatnot. But
Yeah,
if they
it
don't listen,
sucks.
if they
Yeah,
don't listen, okay, then they're ignorant. Then they're being insulting or disrespectful.
true, true. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I try to keep my mouth shut most of the time, except when I'm on here, I don't shut up. But in regards to like the girl making assumptions about like whether you can do it on your own or whether she needs to help you, like that, things like that, I just try to keep,
Yeah.
just because you never know.
Okay. If she did that, if she's like, talking to someone thinking I'm brain dead, and
Yeah.
I should say, hey, I got it. You don't need to talk to her. I got it. I should
Or
say
just
that. And then the lady would look at me and be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to insult you. Then the whole thing would be rectified. I'd be like, it's okay.
why do you have to do the heavy lifting? That's what I'm saying. Like, just don't say anything. Just if there's questions, we'll ask. Just give me the stuff. Like, if there's any instructions, like it's just they're going the extra mile, trying to be nice or trying to be helpful, but in the end, it just
Yeah.
sort of muddies it a little bit. And I understand. Like, this is the complexity of human experience. No one's malicious here, but it is on.
I
My
hear you, man.
my oldest daughter gets mad. Well, not mad, but she gets like irritated when people go out of their way to open the door for me when I'm in the wheelchair or when I'm using my crutches,
Wow.
or they, hold the door or say things, because she says, she's like, I always get mad because that's them being able to say to somebody else later in the day, I helped this person. They don't do it because they're genuinely want to be like, oh, they're just genuinely nice people. They want to say, I'm a good person because I did something for someone who couldn't today.
Okay, so I contend with this a lot. I get that, and this is my thing. My thing is, even if you're going through the motions because because it feels good to do, if we still all did that, even with the wrong intention, it would still be a better place, I think. Wouldn't it?
I
Or
tell her, I don't mind. I say, I don't mind. Either way, I get the door open.
right.
I don't
True.
think that deep about it.
She's smart though. She's right.
I feel her vibe. I won't lie to you.
No, I do too. Like I contend with it all the time.
Sometimes someone will come and they'll, oh, I need to open the door for him, just like you said,
They
and they'll
rush
open
past
it.
you.
Dude, they'll stand in the way, like their toes are there, and I'm like, dude. Anyway, yes, I don't like that.
With them.
I
I've had that when people rush past me to hit the button or to hold the door for me. I lean over and I hit the button and the door automatically opens and I go, thanks anyway.
the button did your job. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
You guys seem extroverted. Are you extroverts?
I think my extroversion is a mask for my crippling depression.
That's brutally honest. I love that. Can we clip that?
I am totally an extrovert. Yes.
You are.
I
You
love
guys
I
seem
love
like
staying
it.
home. Don't get me wrong. I love my home now.
Yeah.
But
No, I genuinely enjoy being out and talking with people and
I need it.
being around people. I love being in large group events like festivals and concerts, and even like going to lectures, like just being around people, because you don't know who you're going to run into. You don't know what you're going to learn. Like I know 95% of my entire bubble. So
Right.
I know all the problems with my house. I know what needs to be fixed. Like I know all those things. But when I go out into the world, I don't know anything, and my perspective may change. I may learn something. I could be wrong about stuff. Like there's a whole bunch of possibilities. So I love being around people.
The excitement of novelty.
Mm-hmm.
So have you had a lot being an extrovert, obviously, that you put yourself in a lot of experiences where you can meet new people or new experiences and stuff. So do you experience a lot of this behavior when trying to do something like that? Is that just an inevitable part of the experience, unfortunately, now? Or is it rare?
Oh, you mean the people running into people who have a preconceived notion about how Terry and I are
Stuff like
supposed to be?
that. Yeah. Is this sort of sour the experience now of being an extrovert because you have to deal with this?
No, I find that
Good question, man.
there's yeah, seriously. I find that there is not, again, not malicious ignorance. There's just people who don't know. And if I can be an informative voice to my experience and to set some facts straight, I want to do that. So
I like that mentality.
not that I'm the spokesman person for MS, but
no, but so I'm a total extrovert, right? And the reason during COVID and stuff, I knew people were staying home and it was driving me crazy, which is why I reached out to start a group so that we can connect all together. I avoid people. I'm an extrovert, but I avoid people because I don't want to get triggered. Because when I get triggered, my mind just keeps going, and usually I react, and then I start overthinking how I reacted. So,
Right.
and it just keep going. It's a spiral in my mind. But so I avoid people. So I keep my circle. Like if I accept you in my circle, then you're important. I know that sounds weird,
Not weird.
No.
but
Mm-mm.
I'm an extrovert who has introvert tendencies.
You're a
Yeah.
cautious extrovert. When you get past, you're a gatekeeper. When you get past the gate, you're in.
Yeah. I respect that. What triggers you?
Ignorance. No.
Ignorant. Oh, well, so okay, well that's so, but ignorance,
When I used
we're
to
all
drive,
ignorant until we're not.
ignorant drivers would get to me. I was
I
like the
see.
Robin Hood of cars, of driving.
Mhm.
So even if I saw someone being ignorant to somebody else, I would go defend them. I would speak up. It's ignorance. I don't know what it is. It's
Okay, but so here's my question though. So when you catch yourself being ignorant towards something, you're like, "Oh, I've learned something today." So what? So how do you? Because we're
yes,
all
you're right.
I keep telling myself that no one gets a perfect score in life.
right.
Nobody. So don't beat yourself up. Learn from your lesson. Seriously, learn from, you say, okay, I in this scenario I was ignorant. If that scenario presents itself again, I'm not going to be ignorant. That's all you
But
can do.
Lauren, you're right though. You're right because you know I catch myself being ignorant to someone else, and then oh my God, I'm really apologetic, and I beat myself just like Nick said. I really beat myself over it because I'm like, oh my God, ignorant. I would hate you if you did that to me. So
Fair. So yeah, okay, I understand.
you know
That's
what also
tough.
triggers me?
Yeah. Yeah, what's
Having
that?
always to say no or always having to speak up. I know that sounds weird. You
You
know,
just feel like you shouldn't have to.
yeah, like you're wasting my energy.
If that's the case, then maybe, and this is, we're speaking so generically here that like
Exactly. Yeah.
we're like in the dark touching an idea here,
Yeah.
but if you're finding yourself having to have more contentious moments than not with people in your life, then maybe you need to reevaluate why you're associating with people that are causing so much contention and very little of anything else. Maybe it's a necessary thing, like if it's a boss or something, you don't have a choice, or
Mhm.
but if there are alleged friends that are causing like tremendous amounts of contention with very little positive emotion, and many of us have that in our lives, and they're just friends from childhood that we've just never reevaluated the relationship, but we just expect to be around people and they're draining, like energy vampires. Uh,
Yeah.
so I don't know. That's all. I'm not giving you advice or anything. I'm just thinking out
No, no,
loud.
you're fine. You're fine, man. Let me tell you another story. Sorry, I see Nick is about to say something, but it's like I'm trying to open the door to, I need to use my key for the pool room key. Okay, so you need your key to open the door, and someone sees that I pull out my keys, and they right away on the other side say, "Oh, let me get that for you," and then I already pulled out my key, and I say, "Oh no, I'm okay," and they say, "No, no, no, I'm gonna get that for you." In my mind, I'm like, you're draining me. I have to say no again. And I just give up. I'm like, just open the damn door. I don't say that to them, but I'm just like, man. And that's what irritates me. It's like, dude, I already said no. Why do you got to make me speak up again? And to another person, they'll say, oh, but their intentions, they're trying to help you. Yeah, I know. But dude, it's 50 times that I have to say no to people. I'm tired of it. Leave me alone. And I get irritable. That's the truth. That's what happens to me. And I
I
get it. People
understand.
are being nice, so
Are you talking to anybody, if I may ask?
anyone specifically?
A therapist, psychologist.
Oh man, I believe in counselors all the way.
Yeah.
Even if you have no issues, you speak to counselors.
Yeah.
I'm on a break right now. I'm not talking to anyone. I believe that's a good thing too. You
No,
see
oh, for
someone
sure.
for
Yeah.
6 months, you
Oh
take a
yeah.
break.
Yep.
But oh, I big believer of that for sure. But
The
I'm
reason why I ask, sorry,
no, no, no,
Nick,
go
you
for it.
wanted to talk?
No, no, I'm always
Oh,
talking.
just because it seems like it's inevitable to have those kinds of experiences. So ultimately, all you can control is your reaction to it ultimately, or you're just going to suffer more if you don't learn to, because it's an inevitable part of the human interaction. Like it's,
So
yeah.
what should I do? Breathe through it? Is that what you're going to tell me to do?
I'm
Breathe
not
through
giving you
it?
advice. No, man.
No, I know, but you know what I mean? Like, what would
Yeah.
someone tell me to, Terry, just realize, just oh, shut up. It happens all the time. It's every day is a test for me.
That's what it is.
I can tell you what I have done. Similar situation, people with doors again. Trying to open a door, the kind of door that pulls out so you can go into a space. I had somebody wanted to, go around me to open the door, and I said, I have to struggle now because you're not always going to be around. I said,
Well
I appreciate you trying to help, but I got to figure this out because ultimately, end of the day, it's me in the chair. I can't just sit outside the store like I hope somebody comes along because I don't know how to open a door.
I agree with what you're saying. Going back to what we spoke of earlier with Viktor Frankl, I have a book also by Marcus Aurelius called Meditations. I don't know if you've heard of Marcus Aurelius, but he's a philosopher, Stoicism. Essentially, what I'm saying is, and this is not advice, this is just the fact of the matter is like, and I tell this to my fiance all the time, I tell this to myself, and it's not easy to digest, but it just, the situation is the situation is. People have autonomy and they'll react in ways that will cause negative emotion in us. And there's nothing we can do, and people will be unfair and they'll try to spite us, and they may act maliciously, and some people won't. And some people will just act, and as a result, the domino effect will negatively impact your life. And the situation is, however the situation is, in this specific case of someone holding a door for you or saying or reaching over your head, the situation happened, but then there's the other part of it where there's your reaction to it. And ultimately, it wasn't fair that it happened to you. It was shitty and the person acted ignorantly, but in the end, now you can sit with that emotion negatively and suffer and stew and ultimately feeling more negative emotion. Or you could try your best to say, if it's already happened and we're now at a stage past that in the present moment, still process it. I'm not saying don't process it. And this isn't advice. This is just, it's like your options are, you can like live with every negative emotion and hold on to it for as long as possible, and then at some point reach ripe old age and die, or recognize maybe in between these negative moments where people are very disrespectful to me, I could find a little bit of solace in the present moment and try to remind myself that it's not just negative moment to negative moment, because it's just time. Like times are falling through the hourglass, regardless of how we interpret it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, who knows, man? Who knows?
You're good. You're good. In these groups that I facilitate, the
Yeah.
number one rule is no one should give any advice. So
Yeah,
the
it's
fact
not
that you're
advice. This is
no,
not
no, no, you're
advice.
good, man. The fact that you're
That's
always
fine.
like, I'm not giving advice. I'm like, that's
No,
music
it's
to
just
my ears, bro. You're fine.
interesting points to make. That's all.
Yeah, it's just like the day's gonna be the same 24 hours.
Yeah.
So like at some point, it's really tiring to feel constant negative emotion. I don't
Yeah.
know. I try
Well,
to take back some autonomy. That's all.
when someone cuts me off in traffic, it doesn't ruin my day.
Right.
There are some people where it's like that's the
Right.
where they get cut off and their whole day is screwed up from there on out because the guy cut me off in traffic and and I was, I go, oh, okay.
I'm so glad I don't drive anymore.
I don't know. Because
Hey, did you get engaged before? Sorry, what a silly question.
Are you asking me?
Yeah, you got
Oh,
engaged. You just said you have fiance. So
yes. I
was it
don't
a
think we were
recent thing?
fiancés.
Okay, okay,
Couple
okay.
years, maybe a
I know
year.
I know you've been with her for a long time, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So you obviously got diagnosed well after you met her.
Technically, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I had it before, but I was diagnosed. I was diagnosed before. I was
Yeah.
diagnosed
That's
before.
Oh, were you? Okay,
I met her
cool.
when I was
Okay.
18. I got diagnosed when I was about 13 or so.
Oh, damn, you got
Yeah.
diagnosed young.
Yeah. 12 or 13, I think. Maybe
Wow.
something like
Okay.
that. Yeah. I was on
Okay.
antidepressants that young. Like I was on Ativan that young. Man, we could go down the rabbit hole. Like there's just
I
IBS, but there's obsessive compulsive disorder. There's anxiety, depression. Like it goes, the waters run deep.
Dude, I'm really sorry for even labeling you with IBS. I know you have other shit. I have other shit too. People think MS is my main problem, but Just like, yeah, I have anxiety, man. I have shit behind closed doors that nobody knows about. I'm an open book. I'll speak of it, but just because I'm in a chair, everyone assumes, oh, his legs don't work. Or to some people, oh, his mind doesn't work.
Which is insane. But
Yes, yes.
I think I don't really look at any of it as labels. Like, you're just Terry.
I love you, bro.
I love you too, but it's just like you're the tech guy, you're like the tech wizard. I see you doing rock climbing now. Like, I associate people sort of with their actions. And I don't know.
Yeah,
That's how I've always sort of been. Like, people are sort of what they do, a compendium of the things that they do. I don't know. But in regards to like you can only react, I guess, because ultimately there's going to be a lot of time that you spend with yourself in your head. And if it's a lot of negative self-talk, or if it's always negative self-talk, it's not going to be a very nice place to be. And you're still going to be forced to be there, whether you like it or not. But the time that you're going to spend there, which is going to suck, is going to be most of your life experience. I think most of the time is probably spent in your head in between moments with people. And if you don't learn to, I guess, address the negative self-talk, it becomes a lot harder. You're still going through the same difficulties and challenges that other people may go through, whether it's MS, whether it's slipping on ice, whether it's having a cold piece of toast when we were expecting it to be hot. It's just, I guess, your interpretation of it that makes it more difficult. People are unfairly hit by cars or diagnosed with illness, and it sucks and it's not fair, and bad things happen to good people, and it's obvious. It's all obvious. But I guess all we have is our interpretation at the end of the day. That's what I got away from Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. At the end of the day, the one thing they can't take is your interpretation. Like, everything else can be robbed from you, your health, your money, your everything. But at least you have your interpretation to life. And I don't know.
It's great, man. You're awesome. It's making sense to me, man.
I listened to a guy who said the moments that you have to worry about are not the moments at Disneyland. The moments are breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because it happens every day if you're lucky. And it's how you handle and treat the mundane, which is 80 to 85% of your life is the mundane. It's the routine of your day.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true.
So he said, don't worry about the Disney moments. Worry about the mundane.
Yeah, like the micro conversations you have day to day and the micro thoughts, if you can start paying attention to those, that's like life. That's the majority of life. And I suck at it. I really do. Oh man, I suck at it, but I'm trying.
But I will say this. Okay. So you say that, and I will counter with, according to whom?
Me. I'm my harshest critic. Yeah, and when I deal with stuff though, like Terry talks about, like, it's easy for me to say, like, just, it's your interpretation of it. But it still sucks in the moment, and I still struggle with it in the moment, but I still try to tell myself I ultimately am making this worse on myself, because, if someone did cut me off, I'm still thinking about it. It's over, and I could at least try to be present with my loved one. I'm sitting here trying to watch a show, and I'm still thinking about what happened to me earlier today. And this moment's not going to last forever. We're not going to live forever. I should be appreciating the time that I'm spending, because it's supposed to be a nice moment, and I'm thinking about what happened earlier today. So that's all. I'm only disservicing myself. We're only disservicing ourselves by robbing these precious moments, by thinking about things that we can't control.
Yep. I'm gonna send you a video on Instagram. That it's the title of the video is called "Don't Worry, Nobody Cares."
I love it.
And it's all about how the person that you interact with is not going to remember you, and doesn't, like, so you go to the store, you go to the Tim Hortons. I guess that's a coffee place that I keep hearing about. Yeah. So you go to the Tim Hortons, you get your coffee. The person you bought the coffee from isn't going to remember you and doesn't care about your struggles. So don't worry. Just go about your day.
But I obsess. Like, I obsess over it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I have obsessive compulsive disorder, and it's like, that's what it is. Like,
sure.
Oh my God. But I mean, it sucks. Like, I was at somewhere yesterday and I had a negative experience, and I was thinking about it all day, and I'm trying to tell myself, like,
so
they forgot about you already, but I'm still thinking, because it was a negative experience. But I think back today, like, you wasted so much time yesterday that you could have enjoyed a nice summer day thinking about something that you're never, 5 years isn't going to matter. 24 hours later, it didn't matter. But, you still fall into that trap. But at least recognizing it is better than just never recognizing it.
Yep.
Are you
It's
going to dwell on this conversation that we're having afterwards? Do you think about everything you talked about?
Yeah, dude.
I do that
Yeah.
too. I do that. That's why I say that, because I do that too. And
yeah.
I'll remember stuff maybe a couple hours later. I'm like, oh my God, I said that. And,
Yeah.
in the beginning of the show, I barely made sense. Later on, I'll be like, oh, why? I didn't, I
I
won't
ref-
even listen to this because
I
I'm like,
refused to listen to our first episode. That was rough.
I don't listen to anything. I can't listen to anything I say.
me too.
God.
Me too.
Uh,
Nick is like, hey, check it out. Let me know what I should change. I'm like, yeah, okay, buddy. It's good to go.
we're gonna end this, and I'm gonna worry like, oh, did I say something? Did I offend them? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I hear
It's
you,
still gonna
bro.
happen.
I hear
I
you.
hear
You're
you.
fine. I swear.
Oh,
I trust me. This is why I'm in the show, to make everyone else feel better. When I'm like, remember that one time I tried to pronounce that word? I could never exacerbate,
Oh yeah.
something like that.
exacerbate.
And
Yeah,
I
you got
fucked
me.
it up so bad. And I'm like, you know what? Just keep it in there. Because, dude, I'm human. This is the way I talk sometimes. I make no
Not just that
sense.
though. When someone mispronunciates a word, most of the time it's because they read it. You shouldn't discourage someone from reading. So if someone mispronounces a word, they probably read it, and that's why they're not pronouncing it right.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't discourage people from reading. That's all. So
Yeah.
Did you know that Nick is a part-time wheelchair user?
I didn't know
So
that.
there
I
is
am
other stuff that go with him, like
20 hours a week. No, I'm kidding. Just part time.
like getting
I
in
don't
his
have any
car,
benefits.
right? Getting out of the chair, getting into the car.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have the ability to walk for a little bit. I usually have a cane or crutches. Um, but I get the side eye a lot when I stand up back at my car to put my wheelchair back in the car. And I usually just say hallelujah and just
No,
go
boy.
around.
As
It's a
you stand up.
miracle. Now, actually, I got Kit doing. I got my wife doing it now too. When I get out of the chair, she puts her hands up and goes, "Hallelujah! He's cured."
So it's little shit like that people don't think about.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that. That's, I
Nah,
mean,
Oh,
thanks, but it's okay.
ugh.
I don't. I had a woman. I had a woman say out loud to her friend walking past um, my vehicle as I was getting out. She made a comment. I put it on Facebook years ago. It was she lost half of her foot in Vietnam. And she was like, I lost half my foot in Vietnam and I ain't got no handicap placard.
Okay, lady.
I said, and I didn't say anything. And I was like, I was so stunned by it. I was like, well, not everybody, has that story, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, but I wasn't going to argue with her. I wasn't going to tell you, like, I don't know. So I love the handicap parking police. There's
Sure. Yeah.
the civilian patrol that wanders the parking lot looking for violators of the handicap spot because they think like just because I park 5 feet closer to the door that, I'm somehow more privileged than they are.
I got a lady that back in the day when I was still walking, I drove into a handicap spot, got out, and a lady goes, "Yeah, you drive like you're handicapped." And I'm like, should I take offense to that? That's kind of funny that she said that, but do I take offense to that?
The
What does that
civilian
mean? Drive
patrol.
like you're handicapped?
I don't know. I guess
Okay,
I drove aggressively into that parking spot.
I see.
Maybe I did. I don't know. But I had a handicap permit.
This is something I think of often, in regards to like people that behave that way or say things like that, and I wonder what's their day to day like, in the
Yeah.
sense that
Yeah.
I don't think they're if someone's either aggressive or says something ignorant or something crazy or out of line like that, I don't think they're otherwise highly functional or competent across the board. And then that's just one isolated incident. I think that's their life, which
Yep.
is like chaos. And that doesn't have to make you feel any better, but you have to at least recognize, and this could sound super ignorant when I say this, but when you're not always dealing with a full deck of cards, sometimes you shouldn't take things as to heart, personally at least. It still hurts, but like at least in Toronto, there's a lot of severe mental illness, homelessness, schizophrenia, screaming, things like that. So I've sort of become a little bit hardened when people are yelling things and saying things that, like, if someone who I held in higher regard were to say something to me, it would hurt a little bit more than if some random stranger were to yell something
Yeah.
Yeah, I
For
hear
me,
what
at
you're saying.
least.
Yeah, like you don't rank. You can say whatever you want because your opinion doesn't matter. I get
It
it.
doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt.
Right.
But ultimately, I guess this is my coping mechanism. That's definitely what it is. It's an unhealthy coping mechanism, but it's that ultimately try to dismiss that which I have no control over. Otherwise, my personal existence is a living nightmare. So I try to. It's called the Wu Wei. Have you ever heard of the Wu Wei?
No.
Yeah,
So my understanding of the
You
Wu
have
Wei,
Wu
I
Wei.
have.
yeah,
The Wu Wei. Yeah, I'm just the fob. Okay.
no, it's from like I actually learned that from the Tao of Pooh, which is Winnie the Pooh. It's Taoism explained through Winnie the Pooh, and the way they explain the Wu Wei is that you're a cork in water, in the sense that no matter how much force you try to push a cork underwater, the cork just goes with the flow of water. It bounces, it floats amongst the water. Whatever current the water pushes, the cork just moves through the water effortlessly. They said if we're the cork and water and life and the resistance and the comments and everything else is water, if we can learn to just go with whatever the flow that comes at us and we just accept it as it is and allow it to pass through us the way the water passes through the cork, there'll be a lot less resistance in life. But we tend to have our egos and get offended and take things personally. So life is hard, rightfully so. We should have a little bit of self-respect, but ultimately life is water. Comments come, nice comments come, negative comments come, situations come, and if we accept it all as just passing like water, it comes and it goes, and more will come and more will go, in the grand scheme, at least. And again, coping mechanisms for me, I try to recognize like this is just part of the water. This will pass, the good will pass, the bad will pass, the comments will pass, the negative comments will pass, the negative feelings will pass, but so will the good feelings. So try to appreciate the good feelings and recognize while you're in the negative feelings and in the trenches, it sucks, but at some point it'll be a memory. It always is a memory. I can remember other terrible times. So
So glad to have Lorne, the life coach, on with us today.
this is not life
I
coach.
just-
This is my coping mechanism. Like this
This
is me not being able to afford therapy and trying
I
to
was gonna say
coexist.
this is free therapy. Thank
This is
goodness
great.
for the internet
This is
and
me talking to
technology. And
myself.
You're great, bro. Yeah.
no, I'm fully on board with what you just said about that because it's the pursuit of uh it's the pursuit of sanity and serenity amongst chaos.
That's all it
That-
is. Like there's
yeah.
no other option.
Yep. That's why in my bio on Instagram it says riding the wave of terror trying to get a tan.
I love that.
Because that's what we're trying to do. We're all just trying to hold it together.
Oh, we're just kicking, man. We're like dogs paddling in an ocean of terror all the time.
But
And
yeah, Wu Wei is very powerful if you
oh,
set your mind to it and listen to it. And
it's not easy, but
no,
it's all there is, in my opinion.
yep.
Oh boy.
And it's another thing is realizing that your worth is more than the comment that's coming at you.
Of course. That's huge. It's everything.
So it's it's having this armor up, so to speak, to say that not that you're going to deflect the comment, not that you're not going to absorb the comment. It's just you're going to absorb the comment and you're going to let it flow back out. You're not going to keep it. You're not going to hang on to it.
Yes.
And that's tough. It is tough.
Certainly tough. And I think when you have a visible, for lack of a better word, excuse my ignorance, like a visible disability when you're in a chair or something, I feel like that's like a little bit of a chink in your armor where you're fighting in a negative deficit compared to someone that doesn't have something that's visible like that. Where it's a little bit harder. I feel like you're already coming from mentally and more of a negative deficit where you're a little bit more self-conscious. Maybe I'm wrong. It just seems like that way. If you don't, I feel like if you're born into life like that, you don't know any different. But when you become diagnosed later in life and it's an adjustment now and you're not used to it and you yourself have to come to terms with this different life now, I imagine everything now has to pass through that filter. So a lot of the advice that I'm giving as someone that's by dumb luck and no other reasoning not in a situation like you guys are in, is probably easier for me to say it. I'm certainly aware of that.
Just you totally get what you're saying. Just so you know, being in the chair, I feel my problems are solved. I've said this many times. I feel like I'm grateful because when I was in Nick's position,
Mm-hmm.
He's walking, not walking. When he's walking, his mind, maybe his mind is okay, but when I was walking, my mind was, where's the next chair? Is this guy going to start talking to me? Gonna use the washroom soon. my mind was just racing and I couldn't focus.
I see.
I was really being tormented when I was standing up, when I was walking. And I
So
was
it's
trying
like
to
ripping the band-aid off.
totally, man. And no one told me you need to sit in a chair, you need to relax. So I kept fighting through it. And it was torture. It really was. And now I'm like, I'm so relaxed. I'm in a chair. I'm like, I'm good. And people tend to come up to me before they go to a guy in a walker. They come to me and say, do you need any assistance? And I'll say, no, look at the guy in the walker.
Right.
He probably should use a chair. He just doesn't use a chair because he's feeling shamed, like he's
Yeah,
going to give up.
I can tell you that when I do use the chair, which is often, I agree with Terry. It's kind of like, okay, the weight is off. I can convert my thinking to how I'm gonna, what I have to do, why I'm out, where I'm going. But when I'm walking, it's left foot. Did it stay? Right foot. Did it stay? Left foot. Is it on the ground? Right foot. How's my balance? Left foot. Okay, that was weird. Okay, right foot. All right, switch hands with the cane because my balance shifted. Like that's the thought. Like I'm thinking step, step. That's what I think. Not
Right.
so. It does solve a bit.
I'm happy to hear that. Is there a point where, or does it eventually go away when you first become diagnosed? Like I imagine, like anything, when even if you're on crutches. My girlfriend, her fiance now, she dislocated her knee once, and she was on crutches for months. And especially when you first start, there's no way. I feel like when you adapt something like that, crutches, cane, anything, you're like everybody's looking at me. This is different. I'm standing out because I'm different from the majority of people that don't have crutches, canes, or whatever else. Does that go
Terry,
away?
Terry, what's your experience? I'll say mine, but how did your first adventure out in the chair? I know you talked
Now
about
I
it with the
forget
coffee.
I'm in a chair. Now I forget I'm in a chair.
You forget it, so it
But
goes
that's a
away. That's
chair. It's different.
wonderful.
It's different than a crutch. I don't know. A crutch seems temporary.
Yeah.
Temporary.
But you forget
So
you're in a chair though. Like when you adapt, your
totally.
brain just, that's
I
awesome.
I'll accept orders and the guy will look at me, maybe he'll hesitate, and I won't take it like it's a chair. I'll forget that I'm in a chair. I'm like, oh, what happened? Is there something on my face?
Wow.
And then later I'm
That's
like, oh,
awesome.
he probably got freaked out that I'm in a chair. And he's like, oh, is this guy gonna take the order? Is he capable? I don't know. So it's
I
normal to me now. Yes, it's been 2 years, 3 years. So, but it wasn't. It took a good year and a half to
Yeah.
transition. I don't know
I
how Nick is because
I'll say that when I first started using the cane, I was out. I was on vacation. I didn't even own a cane, but I was out on vacation, already diagnosed, already struggling with some mobility issues. Um, but I was walking down this like corridor of shops, and I made it about 25% of the way in, and I said to Kid, I said, I can't balance anymore. I can't walk. Like I'm stuck right here. Like I can't move. So she went into a store and bought a cane. It just happened to be right there. And I started using the cane, and I felt weird for a couple days, but that kind of went away once I didn't struggle anymore. Cause I was like, you know what? I need it. I don't care. But it took me a long time to not be public with the wheelchair, but be extroverted with the wheelchair. So like
Right.
people in my circle knew that I used the chair, but I was like, don't take my picture, or I don't, you know, the picture in the wheelchair came much later than actually using the wheelchair. And I don't know why. I think it was the ego probably, but I was like, I
Yeah.
don't want anyone to see me like that. But now I'm like, I don't, I came to the realization that, and I've said it a number of times, that you don't get paid extra to struggle.
True. That's very well said.
So just use what you need to. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's a chair, or, if you're someone that needs a colostomy bag, or if you're someone that needs, full-time care support or power chair, or whatever the case may be. If you're somebody that needs to use the bathroom every 15 minutes, it doesn't matter. Just use the tools because they're there. That's why they were invented.
I'm happy to hear that. Like that part of your brain sort of becomes numb, that self-consciousness after you do it for long enough. Because do either of you guys have social anxiety?
I Not necessarily. I gotta say
Well,
no.
you're
I
both
gotta say no.
extroverts, sort
Yeah.
of, but Terry sort of seems to like dance in between.
yeah, man, I overthink. That's all it is.
Yeah.
I don't have social anxiety, but I overthink after the interaction.
I
I do
see.
that too.
So
I do
that the
that too.
next time, yeah, the next time I say, okay, I got to settle down, and which obviously, you know, changes the way I act around people because I'm always thinking,
I was terrified to publish the first episode. Like I
Mm,
sat in front of the laptop with my hand on the mouse for like 10 minutes, like, oh, I don't want to put this out there. I don't want to do
I
this.
think that's
Like
normal.
the show was done and like
Yeah.
and everything. And I'm like, I don't know, man. That's scary. I don't know if I want to do it.
yeah,
Well, I think it's not a bad thing. At least it's being self-critical. At least you'll aim for a
Yeah.
higher standard, as long as it's healthy self-criticism.
And thanks to the algorithm on Instagram, honestly, because once I did that, my entire feed was people like me. It was,
That's nice.
it was like once I started searching all these MS terms and doing all this stuff and wheelchairs and crutches and all, my whole feed was showing me that I am for sure not alone in
yeah,
how I go through life.
That's nice. And it's nice that people are doing that. There's like social media exists for that reason.
The good side of the internet.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, the internet's certainly connected a lot of people and allowed support and information and access to information. It's crazy. Like you don't think about, I mean, there's so much on the news, negative connotation associated with social media or the internet, but overall it's more positive than negative.
Sure. There's no money in telling you the good news. That's why.
True. Well, if it bleeds, it leads.
That's it. You got it.
Yeah.
the bleeds that leads.
If it bleeds, it leads. Meaning it's a
Okay.
leading story. If it bleeds, if
Yes,
there's like
yes.
someone got hit by a car or something, it's a leading story on the front page. That'll sell papers. Yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah,
They want if there's a riot, people want like the guy hit by a brick. That sells
yeah,
papers.
yeah. Yep.
We're morbid.
And they want to justify that they're doing it right. They want to go, oh, I must be doing it right because I'm not that guy.
Right,
Or,
true. True. Ugh. Are you a fan of the Eagles?
am I a fan of it? Come on now. Of
I,
course
I
I
don't
am.
I don't watch football. My brother's obsessed with NFL. I don't watch sports. But I know the Eagles fans are diehards.
So I love my hometown team. I also, so I exist in a dual existence. I'm a Saints fan from New Orleans. My favorite team growing up because when I was young, I asked my dad what was the worst team in football, and he said, "Well, that's the Saints." And at the time, they were real bad. And so I said, I want to be a fan of that because I didn't know anything about football. I said, I want to be a fan of them so that when they win the Super Bowl, I could say I was there at their worst.
Yeah, underdog.
Yep. So, but I love the Eagles. Philadelphia fans have a love-hate relationship. If you're doing good and you're trying your hardest, we love you. But if you're just phoning it in and not giving it your 125%, or if we're paying you a lot of money and you're not producing, we hate you. it's
Fair.
we hold our players to a standard, that's for sure.
Yeah, you guys are. I mean, I love watching the excitement. Like I've never been to an Eagles game, but I've definitely been downtown when they've been going on, and you guys are quite, very rowdy. But it's a good energy. Like when you're not rioting, when you're not burning police cars, it's a really good energy.
So it's very expensive to go to an Eagles game now. I just heard that for a family of 4 to attend one game, it's almost $700.
Whoa, that's crazy.
So that's 4 tickets, 4 hot dogs, 4 sodas, and 4 ice creams or something like that.
That's
like $700.
That's insane.
But I remember the old stadium before this one, when it was we had an actual prison in the basement.
Whoa.
You can look that up. There were so many fights,
Rowdy people.
yeah, and so much disorderly conduct that they actually elected a judge just to deal with all those cases just for the football games.
That's so Philly.
There was a prison. There was literally a holding cell in the bottom of the stadium. They would put you in till the judge was done, because the judge wouldn't hold court until the game was over.
Right, you
'cause
want
he
to see
was
the
watching
game.
Yep.
Oh, that's the most Philly thing I've ever heard.
Yep.
Oh my god. Wow. Terry, are you a sports fan?
When they're in the playoffs, yeah.
Fun.
I'm not really. I do. I enjoyed basketball back in the day. I was into the Raptors and stuff like that, but I'm not a true hard fan at all.
And I'm a very a Flyers fan for sure.
Yeah.
I don't follow hockey very much, but a Flyers fan for sure.
Oh, oh boy.
There's a fight between the Eagles and the 49ers. Yeah.
That's tame, man.
Yeah. Oh, there's something in the air there. I don't know if you saw that.
It's an
paused it
alien.
as something.
Why I gotta
It's an-
highlight? I gotta highlight that.
X-Files theme plays.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
I'll be watching that
We're
later.
very passionate.
There in Philly, they grease the poles because people, I think, climb the light poles. So they
They
put
do.
grease on them. But
They
people
do.
still climb them, even with the grease. They figure out
Yep.
ways to climb them.
Yep.
I love it, man.
Well, it's not okay. So they that is true. They do. There is the city public works department does actually go around and paint grease onto the poles, but they forgot that regular Dawn dish soap is a grease cutter. So they just
Right.
wash their hands and then the grease goes away.
Oh my goodness.
But honestly, a lot of the times what you're seeing is not people who live in Philadelphia. You're seeing people who live in the surrounding areas, kind of like where I live,
Right.
that go into Philly and cause all this trouble and then
Right.
leave. So
Right.
it's not actually always Philadelphians who are doing it. So
Fair, I imagine. I imagine
that
it's chaos.
That happens
You know,
in every
people-
city where they
Oh,
come
Yeah.
of course. Yeah, of
outside and they
course.
cause shit.
yeah, I mean, you wouldn't destroy your own neighborhood. You got to live there.
True. True, true.
So
Philadelphia
yeah,
is a
it's-
beautiful place. Like, it's a lot of history.
yeah, it's a ton of stuff. I have a couple of friends who actually work for the I guess it's the forestry department, but they're tour guides
Wow.
for like the Liberty Bell and Independence Hall and stuff like that. So
On that note, Lorne is a writer. He comes out with many stories, and Nick, his wife, just came out with a book.
published a book. Actually, she's about to launch number 2. Number 2's finished.
That's
So-
awesome.
So all those questions that you have, Terry, are about to be answered in the next 6 months.
Yeah,
kind of.
What genre?
It is fiction romance.
Oh, that's huge. That's probably the biggest genre in literature.
Fiction romance, and she's now working on a murder mystery, and she has a sci-fi.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, she's definitely. As a matter of fact, we're in her studio
Wow. So
where I do the show from.
she only does it in book format. She doesn't have a blog or anything.
Correct. As
Wow.
of yet, yeah, it's just she published like or not hardback, but paperback. She published the first book. Terry has it somewhere. Actually, no,
Yeah.
you gave it to Katrina, didn't you?
Yes. I
So
was just
Katrina
about to
has
say, yeah, I don't have it. Yeah. She
So how'd
finished
she-
it too. I told you. Yeah, go ahead.
How'd she figure it all out? Like there's so many layers to getting it published and editing it, publishing it. Is she on Amazon? Is like,
Well, hang on a sec. Let me back up here. Let me grab it.
how do you even design the cover? Like where do you even, how do you get it binded? There's so many layers.
You know what? When I started reading it out of
Wow.
respect for Nick and his wife. And then after the second chapter, I'm like, yeah, I got to continue. And I'm not just saying that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, you could have lied to me.
And
You could have
ask-
told me it was
ask
good
Lorne,
and not
like-
read it.
He writes these things and he's like, oh, the audio is coming out on Sunday or Friday. I'm like, I'll wait for the audio.
You much prefer to listen. I understand that.
But I do read, don't get me wrong. But if there's an audio format, I'm like, yeah, because I can multitask too.
Right. I get it.
So that's
really,
if there wasn't, I would read. I read the first one, I think, and then I heard the audio was coming out. I'm like, damn, I'll wait for the next one for the audio. But,
she
yeah.
actually went under contract with Fulton Books, and they handled pretty much everything when it comes to binding and stuff like that, doing all that stuff.
Awesome. Wow.
So it was a bit of money to go with a publisher, but there was a bunch of stuff. There was a bunch of issues that they solved.
And
Um,
they designed it and stuff too.
They sent her things to approve.
Neat.
They said
That's awesome.
this is the font we want to use. They said like pick one of these 3 fonts. Then they said pick one of these 3 artworks. You know, they kind of did it that way.
Oh, so I never knew how the process worked. That's neat. That's to have something to start with just an idea and then manifest it into a physical book is like
15 years it took her to write the book, not because
Oh,
the idea didn't come, because life got in the way. She started writing, and then I went to work. We had kids, raising a family, then the diagnosis, then like just life. But then once everything kind of blew up, it was kind of like, oh shit, what do we do? And she was like, her mother passed away. And to process that grief, she just started writing again. So the book came out as a result of that.
That's awesome. Wow, that's a
Yep.
good story.
Yep.
Wow. Did she always want to be a writer? Because you said she had a bakery originally.
She did have a bakery. Did she always want to be a writer? She always wrote, and not just like randomly. There was always a purpose for her writing. Like she
Mm-hmm.
always was like, oh, I'm gonna write this story, or I have this idea. So it just kind of, life found its way down that path. I mean,
Wow,
I
that's
don't know.
amazing.
Yeah. I think, well, she didn't always want to be a writer. She always wanted to be a dancer.
Oh,
She was very involved in the dance community shortly before I met her. But then again, life kind of took a different course. So
it's fascinating when people, because that's a very, I'll say it's more of an obscure profession. When you meet someone that does something like that, like whether it's a pianist or someone like these are, because most people you meet in my day today at least are like they're like accountants
right.
or doctors. So like when you meet someone that does something like even like a bakery is like more obscure for me, and I find that stuff so fascinating because someone's got to do it. Someone's a author, someone's a pianist, someone's a baker. But do you guys play video games ever? You know what an NPC is?
oh my
Yeah.
God, do I?
Mhm.
Yo,
Okay.
one of my
What's up?
favorite movies is The Pianist. Sorry, go ahead.
No.
You kept
There's a
saying
lot of
that.
jokes in there, but no, I'll save it for
Okay,
later.
all right. Thanks, buddy.
But it just seems like to me, and this is I'm a psycho, it seems like to actually have a profession, it just seems like it's like an NPC, like just day to day, like people that work in bakeries or the fire department or the police, like they're just saying they're not real people, but they are. Obviously they're real people, but
Yep.
it just seems like just a service. It doesn't seem like someone dedicates their life to like making the best bread. It just seems like bread is just always there, but someone's got to grow the bread, someone's got to till the soil, someone's got to figure out the soil science. There's so many layers to make life what life is, and we just expect bread to just show up when I go to the store. But
Yep.
like, and I think we just take it for granted that like I find it so fascinating, and I appreciate those jobs even more. I think when someone's a baker or a plumber or an electrician, because they make like the world. Like accountants are important, and the bureaucrats are important, and lawyers are important, but like the people that just make sure the light switches, so you can cross the street without getting hit by a car, like those jobs I find so
Yeah.
fascinating. And you don't meet those people very often.
And see, I approach it from a sense of, I was a public servant,
Yeah,
and to me, it's a foreign concept that you don't want to go to work to help other people.
fair,
So
fair.
like, it doesn't correlate in my brain that your job is to, like, my mom, for example, was 35 years in accounts payable and receivable, raised a family, had a whole life, but the whole thing was moving numbers from this column to that column.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that was like, I can't get it. Like, I need to be where the action is,
Right, with people.
So
Yeah, it's different. I mean, I don't know. Some people are people. My fiance needs to be around people. It's he gets very energized. I think being around people. I guess you guys are extroverts. That's why you guys are
mhm.
selfless people. You're extroverts. You gain energy being around other people. I find it draining. You guys aren't so bad, but like,
Thanks.
well, it's just something
Oh
about
shucks.
something about being around, especially like people that you guys are you sort of align interest wise and stuff, so it's a little less draining. But when I have to just go out and just talk to the person to get coffee or just visit my fiance's work and I have to just talk to the people that she works with, something about it is very draining to me. Or I just prefer to be alone or just be with numbers or just inanimate things. And I hold in high regard people like yourselves not only coexist but thrive in social environments or make the world a better place, because I do like when you guys make a comment to me like I hope you have a great rest of your day. I won't say it first, but it makes my day better when you say it, but I'm just too shy to say it. So you guys are doing a service, and I hold you guys in such high regard because people like you that are willing to go the extra effort make the world much nicer than it otherwise would be. It's
Terry,
a
I
lot.
want to
I'm
end. I want to end the
long-winded.
show right there, Terry. I think we should just end the show
I'm
right on that.
sorry.
No, it's okay. It's a compliment. I always try to end on a compliment. No, I'm kidding. No, appreciate those comments, and add to that drain. Imagine if you had to go out and deal with all those people and then explain to your story to everyone who wants to know why you use a cane at 33 years old, or why you're in a wheelchair in your 40s, or so for people who have a visible sign of their illness, are then additionally burdened with explaining when someone says, so what happened? Or, so what'd you do? Or, did you mess your knee up? Or any of the questions that they try to engage with and get a response for why
What
you
about
use what you
when you
use.
bring your cane in somewhere and then you forget it, leaning against the table?
Doesn't happen often, but I've gone back. Then you feel like, now they all think I'm faking it.
Yes,
Seriously, that's the thought. It's like,
I've been through that. Yeah.
So
That's why this podcast is so important. I think when you guys talk about this stuff so transparently, I think you give a perspective that people wouldn't otherwise recognize. You guys are doing this. I said this before to Terry many times. You guys are doing a great service to not just those that suffer with these conditions, but those that don't, because no one talks about it. So now you're allowing people to understand a perspective that otherwise they never know.
Yep. And I think the ancillary benefit of that is there's people in my life now who listen to the show, who now approach me in a more realistic way. They don't come guarded with, I got to be careful what do I say because Nick has MS, and if I say the wrong thing, it might upset him. Now they listen to the show and they go, oh, he's still him. He just has this thing that really sucks.
Didn't you should be treated like anybody else, right? Which isn't always nicely. That's something that, what I've realized is if you almost brush people off, if you don't treat someone with a disability with kid gloves and you brush them off the same way you brush anybody else off, sometimes they respond better to that because you're just treating them like anybody else. They're not special. There's nothing special about them. But it's hard to, I don't know. That's my mentality. Like if you're just like any other person, you don't stand out in a line. Some people would prefer that, I think.
So what about someone who wants to show me in the chair some respect? So when they want to talk to me, just listen to this before you say anything. When they want to talk to me, they sit down in a chair next to me so they can be in my eye level. Someone said to me, do you find that respectful? Because I find that disrespectful. And if you think about it, kind of. I'm
disrespectful.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird feeling when it's almost like they're sitting down to talk to a child.
Well, I'll tell you why I thought it was disrespectful, because I didn't think about it. I would just talk to you. You're just Terry. But as soon as I have to sit down now, I'm having to put the wheelchair as part of Terry. It's part of Terry's identity. In order for me to talk to him in his eye. Otherwise, just Terry. If you're shorter, I just, wherever your eyes are, I meet your eyes. Whether you're shorter, whether you're sitting. If I were to come into a restaurant and you were already sitting down, I wouldn't expect you to get up. I would just, and if I was standing or if I wasn't eating with you and I just saw you in a restaurant, I would stand while you sat down. That's how we would talk. I wouldn't. So I sort of agree with that person. Going the extra effort, despite having good intentions.
Oh, you're a short person.
Least,
hold on 1 second. Let me get a chair.
It sort of seems in a convoluted way. I don't know, at least to me, a little demeaning, but maybe I'm crazy.
We're just thinking too much. We're just going to pick on every little thing.
Yeah. My experience with you was just talking to you, regardless of whether you're sitting, standing, or anything else. So as soon as I start interpreting that, for me at least, it gets a little.
I would think, okay, that's respectful. Like I've never had someone do that to me, but when someone mentioned that's disrespectful, and I'm like, oh, you know what?
So is it though? Is it? What would you prefer?
I don't know. I don't know. It really depends on their ambiance. I won't lie to you. I got to feel out the person.
Because I think talking about it is sort of, if we just go through if we just have a natural conversation, whatever happens, happens.
If they were like, hey, do you want me to sit next to you? Or if they ask, maybe I don't know what to say to that. I have to experience it more. Yeah. Now I'm thinking.
I don't expect people to change their normal routines and habits because I'm sitting in a wheelchair, because I'm not changing mine.
Right. I like that.
If you're standing and talking to me, I'm going to look up at you. If you're going to look down at me, that's fine. You're not looking down at me because you're looking down at me. You're looking down because I'm just physically shorter.
Correct. That's
So
correct.
I don't know. I don't want people to change their habits and routines just because I'm sitting in a wheelchair or using a crutch. Just acknowledge without saying I might be a half second slower, or just understand that I'm not going to be able to keep pace with you 100% of the time, but we don't need to talk about it.
Correct. But that goes through the subconscious filter of just existence.
Right.
The same way, like if there's someone a little bit older than you, and you see they're coming towards the door and you hold it, you already have the process, but have to hold this for a little bit longer than if they were a 20-year-old running. But you don't really. That's so quick. It's such a quick subconscious thought. Like, I don't know.
I don't get insulted if they sit down. I don't get insulted if they stand up or stay standing or whatever. I don't expect the waitress to sit down and take my order at the restaurant. And I don't find it disrespectful that she doesn't sit down to talk to me.
Right. But normally they don't anyways for anybody.
Right. Exactly. So I don't expect her to change if I'm in a restaurant in a wheelchair just because I'm in a wheelchair.
Yeah. So that's what I mean by treating people normally. Sorry, Terry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Hugs in a wheelchair. I don't like. When someone comes to me and goes, "Oh, can I give you a hug?" I don't like it. It's awkward to me because they're coming here and they're bending over. So and I feel I don't want them
to turn to the
break
side.
Yeah.
Turn to the side. I go like this.
You're right, but I can't be like, "Hey, come to the side." It just gets awkward.
I do. I say, "Come over here. Come over here. Get around my feet."
It's a compliment when they're like, "Can I give you a hug?" or whatever. I'm like, yeah, of course.
Yeah, sure.
But it's such a burden because I'm thinking about their back. I'm thinking their back comes down. I hate burdening people. I don't know what it is. I hate burdening people. And when they bend down, if I hear the slightest, you know what I mean? Like, then you know what I'll do? I'll assist them. I'm like, there you go. It's so weird, man. I hate burdening people. I don't know what it is. And I'm not a nice guy. You're like, oh, it's such a nice guy. No, man. You know why? Because if I burden someone, I think about it later. I dwell onto that. That's my mental thinking.
It sounds like you're being a nice guy. Being thoughtful. I don't know.
I guess does that mean I'm not nice because I'm like, just do whatever.
F you both. Sorry.
No, I just think that I just don't
have an expectation of people.
Correct. Yeah, that's a healthy. It's definitely a healthier outlook. I would say not holding expectations is definitely healthier. I think Terry's, and this is coming from experience, is dipping a little bit in neuroses, which is like where that's my kingdom. I'm the king of neuroses, so that's why I say that. Like when you take an interaction you have with someone a step farther and you start thinking of it long after it's gone, that's being a little bit neurotic about it, I think. And we were all in neurotic. Like there's like 4 pillars of like neurotic. I don't remember what it is. Do you know what I'm talking? You guys know what I'm talking about? We're all in all of them, but some are in a degree in one than others. And I'm like super high in neurotic and introversion, I think. And you guys seem to be in extroversion more so, as my fiance is, my brother is. It's fascinating though when you just see like where you are on the spectrum of like the different traits that make us all up, because we're all a combination of the 4, and depending on what degrees we are in certain parts sort of make up our personality.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we think we're so individual, but at the end of the day, we are a little bit more mechanical than we'd like to admit. When you read psychology books, you're like, oh, I'm not like I'm a person, but like at the same time, sort of a bit of a textbook.
I often would use the phrase for my daughters, especially when they were a little younger. I would say, unfortunately, you are not the first, last, or only person who's ever gone through this.
Right, and it's
you're in good company.
Yeah, it's weird because it feels so personal. But like we all experience it the same way. That's why I think just sharing this and having this interaction is so important. At least for me, it's comforting to hear other people's experiences. And while it may not all be exactly the same, like things you say about your experience, about people reaching over you, about other things, I can't relate literally, but the feeling of the experience feels like a human experience. That's something I could resonate with.
And that's so to go back to what triggers the thing that triggers me is when people dig their heels in on an ideal and refuse to hear the other side.
Fair.
And just dismiss it immediately because it makes them uncomfortable to hear what someone's saying. So I try to seek out people who don't think like me because I don't know why they think differently than me. And I got to know because I might be thinking wrong.
That's fair. I try to poke the bear all day long. That's all I do is try to, because it's how you learn. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. It's because you can be 100% wrong and not know it, but you know you're 100% right.
True. It's insightful. Oh man.
More with Nick's Psychology Hour after this quick break.
Oh my God. Okay. Gentlemen, that's a lot of fun. I have to go at 12:30. I'm sorry, I didn't see how late it
No,
was.
it's perfect.
No,
We went way over.
Totally fine.
Okay.
Totally fine.
Is there anything I missed? I rambled and rambled and
You
rambled.
can always come back. You
I
can always come
appreciate
back
that.
on the show.
I really appreciate that. You guys just do the audio, right?
We only do audio. Yep. Available everywhere now. Thanks to Terry. Apple,
That's exciting.
Google, Spotify.
Do you want to talk about where we can find your
Yes. Plug your show.
show, your book? I mean, your book, stories.
I do a podcast with my brother, The Bronstein Show. You can find that on YouTube. It's on Spotify. If you type in The Bronstein Show, I think it'll come up on Google, I imagine.
We'll put it in our bio as well.
I really appreciate that. It's not edited. We've definitely said things that are inappropriate. It's not intentional. It's just off the cuff and unedited. It's just my brother and I having fun. I don't get to talk to him otherwise. It started because I never got to. He works so much. Our schedules are so conflicting. So I said if we could at least find a time to lock in once a week, at least I get to see you and talk to you. And then it became a thing. So that's sort of what it is. But I didn't want to lose that. I didn't want to commercialize and say, well, don't say these things we normally wouldn't joke about because people won't like it. I figured you'll find the right audience. And if people are genuinely hurt or offended by anything I say, it's unfortunate, but I hope you can see my intention was never to do anything other than just have fun. It's never meant to be malicious or anything. I do walk the line, though. I will say that. That's why I wanted to say that when I was promoting it, because I do walk the line. So you guys are really clean. You guys have said you guys are really nice, and I'm shocked I'm on here because I'm a little bit inappropriate at times.
Quite all right.
Sometimes you say these little you throw in a little joke and no one will catch it, or Jared won't catch it, and I will. I'm like, yo.
That's all. But it's never meant in ill will. I've just grew up with Eddie Murphy, and I love Lenny Bruce, and a lot of these guys that they really push the envelope, but never meant any. It was always just in the guise of humor. I'm long-winded with everything I do. I'm sorry.
Quite all right.
Sessions with Dr. Botgore, horror stories. If you like horror stories, you can. All the links will be here. If you're listening to this, just click the links.
Where'd the name come from, Dr.
Botgore is a character I created, and the whole idea of it was that the stories, it's just a vehicle. He's a psychologist to monsters and ghouls and goblins, and everybody needs help, including monsters. So they see him, and as he's interviewing them, they tell their story, and the story is essentially the story that you read. So sometimes it's an interview. Sometimes it'll start as an interview with Chaos or Gaia, which is Mother Nature, and sometimes it's just a note. So he'll just say, this is a case file that I was studying, and it'll be the story of the week or the story of the month. There's a new horror story every month. And by the time this comes out, I believe Lenny, my latest story.
One of his, before we add this, one of his stories, just in the beginning, he's talking about a girl that's ripping the skin off her nail or something like that. And I don't do well with gore at all. And it wasn't even gory, bro. It was just the initial part. And I was like, oh, this story is all gore. I'm not even gonna read this. And then I told him I couldn't read past that. And he's like, oh, what's wrong with you? It's just
I didn't say what's wrong with you. I didn't say what's wrong with you. I didn't say that.
Okay.
In that case, it is gory though. This next one too. Lenny's super gory. They're gory. They're gross. But in that one specific situation, the girl was biting her fingernails because she's anxious, and she just bites it down to the bed. And I know people that bite their nails till they bleed. They just bite them and chew their skin, and that's all that was to imply, is that she's so anxious. She just chews and chews at her fingernails. But It is gory. They're gory. They're gross. This next story, Lenny coming out.
Yeah.
it's not for a faint of heart. It's pretty bad. It's gross, but if that's what you like,
I'm getting better. Like I can't watch movies like Saw.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just whoa, relax. So yeah.
I'm fascinated with like why I write about that stuff. I'm fascinated with suffering and just human depravity. Not torturing or killing people, but more like internal suffering. Like the story Lenny is gross, but if you read the story Kitty, if you read the story, you'll see it's about loneliness, it's about depression, it's about pushing the limits of what's acceptable just to be part of something bigger than yourself. But it is dark. While trying to catch those themes, he goes through like moments of like darkness, and so that's why. Again, long-winded. I'm sorry.
And you narrating the story with your voice, awesome, man.
I appreciate that.
And I love the accents. There's sometimes you put an accent in there. I'm like, good job, buddy.
I'm so self-conscious about that, but
good job.
It's either do it or don't do it. Like if I want to make a career out of this, I'm trying. So if there's anything you guys check out after all this explanation, if there's anything to check out, just check out the horror stories. They mean so much to me. And I'm hoping someone that has a strong enough stomach will like it. They'll share it with their friends. People that like horror can maybe pick up on it and just enjoy it. It's free to read, free to listen to.
So we'll definitely link it in the bio of the show. That's for sure.
Thank you guys. Thank you for tolerating this rambling.
You're not even
Thanks for rambling with us.
Okay, gentlemen. Until next time.
Awesome.
Until next time. Talk soon, Terry.
Thanks, Lorne. Yeah, talk soon, Dick. So check us out at 40belowzero.com. That's 4-letter-T-below-zero.com. Or feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Our email address is info@40belowzero.com. Our personal Instagram account are, for Nix, it's Nix_V713. Or for Terry, it's What's_MS. Awesome. Looking forward to hearing from you guys. We'll talk soon.